Hi there. Today we're going to be talking about whether it is safer to send data by mail or via the internet. My name is Steve, this is TQA Weekly, and there are definitely plenty of horror stories of sending files over the internet and via mail. But the question is, which method is potentially safer for you? And it is really a hard flip when we talk about this. And let's start off by the mail. You can send optical discs, hard drives, memory cards, etc., etc., etc. by the mail. It is also possible to get tracking. So for the most part, you know where the package is headed. If you look up the effects of X-ray scanners and other devices, for the most part, they do not harm the data on the drives. Apparently, it is a myth. So, there is only a few issues that would potentially cause harm in one way or another to data sent by the mail. It would be physical damage, dropping, throwing, breaking. It could be the fact that the package is stolen, or it could be that the package is lost, which you might as well call stolen at this point. If you have tracking on a package and it is lost, it's probably stolen. So this means that if you send something by the mail, there is a greater than zero chance that the package itself never makes it. And while you can ensure the objects in the box, you cannot ensure the data on the optical media, the hard drives, or the memory cards, or anything else. You just can't. They're uninsurable for that matter. Which means that at any point in which the data is lost because it's either lost or stolen, you still have to maintain a backup for yourself. You cannot reasonably expect the package to make it to the end and not have a backup. You can't. Now, the alternative, which in a lot of cases is less expensive, is sending the files via the internet. If you have access to cloud drives and they are large enough, you can potentially send a lot more data than you would be able to do over courier. Because hard drives and optical discs and all that, depending on how much data you have, would get very heavy, and that would actually increase the costs. And if you're like me and you live in Canada, that will really increase the costs. So you can send all of that data over the internet. However, much like sending it over courier, you still have a man-in-the-middle issue, which means that somebody can still intercept the data. It's still possible for the data not to make it to the recipient, and it is still possible for somebody to steal it, basically. Since it could be modified, damaged, lost, or stolen even over the internet, what ends up happening is we have almost exactly the same risks. But we have to go a step further. Encrypted data is how we should be sending this. This should be sent encrypted in both scenarios. Whether the media itself is encrypted or the files or both, there should be encryption protecting the data. It is, in my own opinion, that both the transportation method as well as the data should both be encrypted, meaning that any connection over the internet should be encrypted. This reduces the man-in-the-middle issue, but also if you're sending drives or SSD cards or anything like that, you should be encrypting those too, and encrypting the files inside, which makes it very much like SSL with an encrypted file. That means that even if the files were to be intercepted, lost, stolen, or damaged, they cannot be modified. They cannot be analyzed, at least for a significant amount of time, which is important to remember. And this means that while you may lose the files in transit, you are protected from the repercussions, at least in the short run, of having those files lost. And all encryption will be broken one day It is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So what we are trying to do is encrypt the files in a way that makes the encryption viable for long enough that the files themselves, the information, becomes obsolete. You are almost better off using AES 256 at this point for that very matter, with a strong, very strong cipher key. The stronger, the better, because the better the key that protects the encryption, the longer it will take for it to be brute forced. Meaning that in any way, whatever that you decide to send, any files over the internet or by mail, you are better off encrypting the communication itself, whether it be by SSL to N or the drives themselves, and encrypting the files themselves as a form of backup redundancy, and with different ciphers, by the way. And this means that, at least in this case, whether you sent it by mail or not is less important in the end. Because if you were to do that to both mediums, it becomes more of a cost issue than it becomes of a safety issue. You are likely to get the files intercepted at one point if something fails, but if everything is encrypted, you are going to be fine, at least for long enough that it no longer matters what's in it. And that's basically what it is. Is it safer to send it by mail or internet? It's my honest opinion that it doesn't matter which way you do it, except that at least if you send it via internet, depending on the size of the files, it's actually a lot less expensive, and you are at least able to send encrypted files over encrypted communication for a lot less. It may not necessarily be the safest way of doing it, but you are less likely to get the information stolen. And that is basically what it comes down to. It becomes now a choice of whether or not you want to take on that choice based on what I just told you. I mean, you could encrypt a hard drive, encrypt the data on the hard drive, and bring it yourself. And that would ultimately at least guarantee that the files will get to the end. But how far are you willing to go in doing that yourself? And is that also cost effective? And in every scenario, you still need a backup, just in case. So, like this episode if you like it, dislike it if you didn't, share with those who think could benefit from this, and don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions for topics, email me at ask@tqaweekly.com or go to my website, tqaweekly.com, where you can see the show notes on this episode, past others, find other ways of subscribing, and of course use the contact form to email me directly. And if you want to do like other people have done recently, you can come over to twitch.tv/ZAccess1981, where I am currently playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I play every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.